On this final Friday in September, we're at Franklin Classical School's homecoming game as the Classical School Knights. A little bit early there on the pre-broadcast intro, but I appreciate it nonetheless, Zachary. Pre-game here for Franklin Classical School's homecoming game against the Riverside Christian Academy Knights, and the implications very much to who will host a playoff game in the MTAC South. Good evening, everybody. Spencer Tom said, Zachary Lone, show me on camera in just a moment. Franklin Classical School, they're in a situation of they're 1-1, lost a heartbreaking overtime game against the East Harding Christian School Eagles, but their victory last week against the Bowling Green Warriors is more motivational for them to get a win tonight, especially with the seniors at the helm. Unfortunately, Clay Lott is out for the year, so one of the weapons being lost in the backfield. But with Eli Cornett coming on the field, it's going to be interesting to see how he plays out. Meanwhile, for Riverside Christian, everybody knows about their loss 58-50 at home, but nobody's really talking about their blowout win against the Lighthouse Christian School Lions. They were 1-0 to start the season and then 1-1 by a tough game against a tough team. And the question for Crutch Rizel, as well as Jake Rebelski and the rest of Travis Creasy's squad, is how are they going to get this victory on the road, especially in a tough environment on homecoming. Now, Zachary, we look, of course, at both of these teams. Let's start with Classical. You've got homecoming night, and the huge expectation is win it for your seniors. How are they going to do that against a team that lost a heartbreaker at home?
Well, it's going to be interesting. You got to come out early and score quick. Go score quick. Get gaining momentum because against a Riverside team that last week they scored and went up big on Lancaster. But you just got to go ahead and make the little plays, make the big plays. Lean on Eli Cornett. Lean on your big playmakers. Lean on South trying to go ahead and get your offense going.
Now, Crutch Rizel and Jake Grubelski, two of the amazing guys we've seen from Riverside Christian throughout the season. How big of a game does Crutch Rizel have to get the victory here on the road?
I mean, he basically is their offense. Their offense runs through him and Rebelski. That's who the offense runs through. So Rizel has to be able to play all 4 quarters the whole time. You really can't take any breaks because this is a huge game in seeding-wise.
You look at the stats, both of these teams evenly matched. It's the Kingdom.com Extreme Game of the Week. The jousting match part seniors, Ms. Ruth Kudrak, is going to sing our national anthem for us.
Hold it high. Say, can you see by the dawn's
Welcome to Fred Lane Field, a location that Franklin Classical School was unsure if they were going to have their home games here due to everything going on in the world, but they're here for all of their home games as we welcome you to the Kingdom.com Extreme Game of the Week. The Knights about to come out in what they know from talking with both coaches. Everyone knows what's at stake. It's fantastic to honor the seniors and fantastic to give them proper send-off they deserve for their homecoming night. But at the end of the day, it's about clinching a home. It's about potentially clinching a home game in the playoffs. And here come the Knights. Classical ready to go, led by several of their senior leaders, including Eli Cornett, the man who transferred from Centennial High School, had to sit out a few weeks, and is more fired up than ever. Freshman year, he was with Classical 2 years at Centennial and then transferred in his senior year. Isaiah Austin for the first time this season, as well as Coach Travis Creasy, both of them for the first time this season. They are in primetime on the Extreme Game of the Week.
And here we go. How is this game going to start? Is Riverside going to come out and be able to punch Franklin Classical in the mouth if they were against Lancaster? And if they are, will they be able to keep it up the whole game and not allow FCS to come back into this game? Or will Classical come out with the extra bit of motivation because of what's at stake and what this means to all the players? These first few drives are going to be critical to this game.
And the Knights are set to receive the kickoff.
And leave that Riverside won the coin toss. Riverside won the coin toss and elected to defer. So on homecoming night, it will be in the hands of Eli Cornett and the rest of that Franklin Classical School offense. And in a game that means so much, away we go from Franklin, Tennessee. And it's high up, and Cornett is going to return it. Cornett on the left side, staying on his feet, finally brought down at about the 42-yard line. And we'll see that Classical offense for the first time in prime time.
And that's a great return to go ahead and set up Franklin Classical in prime position to start this game. And now we're going to see, will Cornett be able to come out early and make those big plays? Will Southstrand be able to find the open man? Will he be able to keep up how he's playing? Leading rusher, leading quarterback, leading passer.
One of the keys in Joshua Salstrand for their offense. And Cornett with the ball. Cuts back to the right side. He's got a little bit of an opening. Can he get through? Brought down a gain of 7 yards. And an initial contact made by Michael Whidden, nominee for Extreme Player of the Week. Now, one of the players that was nominated by the coaches came to a close decision between him and Ezel, but Whidden showed up last week in their game against Lancaster.
As here we go. Is this replay? This is not. We don't have replay.
Have an issue.
But
we'll get that.
Salstrom right there made one of the biggest blocks coming back after this play.
And Salstrom again, shovel pass to Cornett. Likes giving him plenty of touches on the ball, but in that case, it'll make him lose several yards of the play for a third down.
And look who it was. It was Crutcher Ezel. A big play there by Riverside. But the play before Salstrom, the play broke down. Cornett didn't have anyone going on the left side because Ezel stopped the play again. But what Cornett did is he came back to the right side of the field. Salstrom made the key block on the Riverside defender, which gave him the 8 yards.
And on 3rd and 8, scramble by Salstrom gets the pass incomplete, intended for Gerasi, and we'll possibly see the first punt of the game.
There's a big stop there because Riverside dropped back into coverage and they played the sticks where, okay, you can complete it before the sticks, but we're not going to let you get to that first down marker, which caused that throw to be a throw short of the marker.
And now this leaves us to what will likely be a punt away for Classical. Got a man deep back to receive. And there's a punt away and deep back to receive for Riverside is, looked like the man himself, Crutcher Ezel, and it's just going to bounce all the way to about the 12-yard line. And after the amazing stats that Crutcher, Ezel, and company have put up in the last 2 games, we will see the first time in prime time that Riverside Christian Academy, first time in prime time for the Knights offense.
And I'm excited to see what Ezel can do so far. Ezel can do. See him in person. He's one of the more dynamic players in the league. So it's going to be a big-time player show up in big games.
See what Ezel can do. 1st and 10. And a handoff up the middle for Riverside as he weaves through the defense. Gone, gone, gone. And Riverside is going to score first on the road. Jake Rubelski for the touchdown.
Wow. What a run. The hole opened up there. He took it down. The hole was huge, and then just had to break that one last tackle. And then when he was in the open field, you're just not going to catch him. This Riverside team is a fast offense. Ezel and Rebelski, just their ability to extend plays, be able to get to that second level and make that extra burst of speed is what attributed right there to that touchdown. And that's a quick strike.
1 second, I believe we finally got replay to work. We only caught the back end of that Sahlstrom thing, but 6-0. And 2-point conversion attempt is stopped short and no good. So now 6-0. Riverside strikes first on the road, and that's what Riverside is known to do. They were up 28-6 at the end of the first half against the Lancaster. They're known for striking first and trying to give their guys earlier rest. However, didn't benefit them last week against Lancaster.
No, but let's see if they can go ahead and keep this momentum going. Let's see if we can get any of that replay. There it is. And that was actually Crutcher Ezel who got into that secondary. So there he is. Like I said, look for him to make an early play and a 90-yard touchdown to start the game. I'd say that's a pretty big play.
We apologize for the camera angle looking crooked here. It's unfortunately these bleachers make it difficult for us to have it 100% level, but we'll definitely make it work here. Spencer Thompson, Zachary Lone, and Jack Helwig bringing you all of the action from this exciting game to potentially clinch a playoff spot in the South. Lancaster is in prime position to do that with their last-second victory against Riverside in Fayetteville 7 days ago. And there's right side Eli Cornett with the return. Eli Cornett weaving through. He's got one man to beat. Couldn't get past Crutcher Ezel and brought down across midfield. But those kinds of good returns are why Riverside are still in it. And it's that kind of move. It's how they're going to stay in, as we have a player injured on the field for Franklin Classical. But check this replay.
And here we go.
Catch a little bit of it there, but
Now, look, what Cornett's done the past 2 times is he's been able to give Franklin Classical good field position to start off the drives. And now let's see if we can get the replay from the beginning right here. Now watch him cut back, but great stop there by Ezel. He broke down, made Cornett pick up which side. He's going to go left, he's going to go right. Cornett went left, and since Ezel broke down and didn't commit too early, he was able to bring down Cornett.
And looks like we're going to step aside for this injury timeout. I believe we do not have a penalty on the field, so stepping aside for an injury timeout. And now a 1st and 10 as Classical tries to scramble down the field. Salstron under pressure, avoids several tackles. He'll take it, staying on his feet, weaving through. Joshua Salstron to the house. Touchdown, Classical.
Wow, there we go. That is back-to-back offensive plays that we've had touchdowns. So we've been trained early to do big plays. Now let's see if we can get any of that replay.
Got a little bit of it.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, right there. If you're Riverside there, you want to try and push Salstron out of bounds because he's right on that edge. But they weren't able to do that. So that allows Salstron to keep going on that edge and be able to he tiptoes down the sideline after he evaded two defenders in the backfield. And now we have a tie game.
And now tied at 6, a chance for it to be 8-6 with that missed 2-point conversion attempt from Riverside earlier on. Make that a tie game already. We might have a high-scoring game on our hands here. Depends on how Classical can perform. And end up the middle, and just short, tied up at 6 with 9:42 left to go in the first. And it's those kind of plays are why these teams are so evenly matched from the stat lines. And fortunately, both of these teams have everything reported on Max Preps, so you could see who the playmakers are for this team, not just on Max Preps, but on the field.
Oh, definitely. And as you can already see, we have on the field, you have 5 to 6 big-time players on both sides of the ball. And your two big players, your two guys to watch out for so far in this game have made the 3 guys. You have Cornett, you have Salstron, you have Ezel have made the 3 biggest plays of the game so far. Cornett has returned the ball to where they're in prime position to score each time. Ezel's make huge tackles and then gets that long 9-yard touchdown run. And then how do the Knights answer? They get the ball, they get their return, take it to the other 42 of Riverside, and then Salstron tiptoes down the sideline for a 42-yard touchdown.
Joshua Salstron, the senior, he's been with Classical for several years. One of the great playmakers for Franklin Classical in his senior year, trying to lead them to their first state championship since, I believe, 2012 or 2013. And a low onside kick attempt is picked up. Looks like it was Rubelski who picked it up there. And we'll see how Riverside responds to that touchdown.
That's not a bad idea because of how the kickoffs have been going so far this game. Go ahead and kick it. They did kick it to Ezel, but it was on the ground where Ezel had to bend down and pick it up. By the time he got up, he had 4 or 5 defenders around him to go ahead and bring him down. And that eliminates, yes, they get the ball to 41, but that's not going to, but if that happens the whole game, you're not going to have those big kickoff returns as you're seeing from Franklin Classical right now.
Second offensive drive. Riverside gets stuffed with a gain of maybe a yard or 2 on the play. It's a handoff up the middle as looked like it was Crutcher Ezel could not get there, and another injury for Franklin Classical, having some more issues there for their players. Hopefully just some cramps going on.
But that's what Riverside did the play before. For the touchdown, they took Ezel. They did the read option. Rubelski hands it off to Ezel. Ezel takes the gap up the middle and went for a touchdown. That time, that gap just wasn't there. That's just a little bit of a misread by Rubelski, but that does set up good later on in this game when they continue running this play, continue to go ahead and use all the options out of it. That leaves that keep by Rubelski to go to the outside and maybe pick up a first down.
And an injury on the play. The clock is still running down in stadium. About 8:36, and we will step aside. Hopefully everything's okay with their fallen player. Looks like Charles Bennett is being taken to the sideline to be looked at, and we'll see what Classical can come up with here. Now a 2nd and 9. motion for Riverside. They're going to hand it off. That's Raymond Hunt. Raymond Hunt, an all-star for Riverside, back in the last several years, has gotten a gain of about 6 yards for a third down.
And that play isn't a flashy play, and it's one to set up the next play. It's not one of those ones where you're expecting it to break big. It's to get you in a position where you're third and short, to where you have your full playbook, and you're not looking at third and long or third and medium. A 3rd and 3 to 3rd and 4 is your ideal spot. If not, of course, you want to be closer, but you don't want to go any further than 3rd and 4.
We'll see how this Knights defense can respond. As Rubelski gets a deep toss to the left side and overthrew his target. Looks like the pass was intended for Michael Whidden.
And I wonder if that throw was to Ezel, because the way Rubelski threw it, he was off his back foot and he got hit as soon as he threw. So that could be something that made the throw go a little short. But Ezel was wide open if he could have had that one last second to try and get that ball off and step into that throw.
So now a 4th and 4, Riverside as a man deep back to punt it. Still not going with anyone to receive. And muffs the snap, but gets it away. And that'll go over Cornett's head.
And that punt takes Franklin Classical.
Stopped at about the 30-yard line.
Where Franklin Classical will take over first down on their own 30. That'll be 1st and 10 for your Knights.
As we have a timeout.
And we got a timeout on Franklin Classical.
Franklin Classical.
So Coach Austin already calling a timeout to regroup it with his guys with about 7:35 left to go in the first. And it's interesting to see how this game has gone already with 2 scores, no 2-point conversions, and it's looking like one of these matchups that could be high scoring even when we get past the first quarter.
Oh, definitely. So what you're looking at is 2 high-powered offenses. You saw last week 50 points for Riverside. And how much did Franklin Classical put up against Lighthouse? If I'm not mistaken, they put up a lot against Lighthouse, didn't they?
Riverside did, yeah.
Riverside, yeah, that's right. My bad. But Riverside has had 2 high-scoring football games. So Franklin Classical have to score early and often to keep up with this high-powered offense.
And after the timeout, it's time to see what Classical is going to do with this new set of downs. And high snap, trying to go back for it, and fallen on by Salstrom. Good awareness to keep the ball from turning over on downs, and still a loss of 7 yards.
And that's what we've seen throughout our first few games. Really, the centers not being on the same page as the quarterback, because I don't think it looked like Salstrom wasn't ready for the snap there. So that's just a little bit some of that communication that's going to have to be fixed if you want to go deep into the playoffs.
2nd and long. Salstrom under pressure, still scrambling, finally brought down in the backfield. Close to the 17-yard line.
Now, as if the replay, there it goes. Now watch the contain here by Riverside's defensive front. Look, Salstrom tries to get to the outside here. And then 60, was that 66? Patrick Sims was there. And then 44, Alex Thompson came right behind and took him down. So there's a sack. Brings up a big 3rd down. A long 3rd down.
And now a big 3rd down here as Salstrom finds an opening in the middle. Salstrom cuts through. Not enough to get the first down. Got a few yards there. And we'll now see a 4th down, and they'll punt it away.
And that was another huge tackle there by Thompson, forcing Franklin Classical to punt it away from deep in their own end. Maybe being able to flip the field position just a little and get the ball back around the 30, around the 40-yard line, so your offense has a chance. Because the 2 times they've had the ball, they've started at the 10 and the 40, and the 40 came off as a little squib kick. Maybe they want it deeper. That's what they scored the touchdown on.
And it's like whistled a timeout called. Timeout called by Riverside Christian. Now each team has 1 timeout each. And we hear that a little bit from Ronnie Perkins. Ronnie Perkins and company on site for tonight's game. And about 5:43 left to go in the first.
timeout, and on a 4th and long, it's going to be a punt away for,
We got a low snap.
and it's a low snap there. Can he get the punt away? Salstron's going to hold on to it and loses the ball just outside of the end zone, and Riverside in prime chance to get a score here.
And there you go, huge play. Yes, that was a bad snap, but being able to go ahead and pounce on it, because most of the time, as you've seen through the first few weeks, the defensive front from special teams units just stop at the line, make the initial contact, and just stop. But why you keep going and you play through until the punt's away is because of stuff like that, where there's a bad snap, where he's not able to get where he's having to take a little bit longer to get the punt away. And that wasn't a punt block. That was just the edges going straight downhill.
And now an easy walk-in touchdown for Riverside's Jake Rubelski, and another 6 on the board for Riverside.
And the hole, that same hole that opened up on the 90-yard touchdown opened up right there, as Riverside took that was the what am I trying to say? That was the that was the play that I was talking about earlier, where he's just gonna keep it in and open up for later. So as Ezel went to the outside, the left side of the line went ahead and cheated to the left, leaving the whole middle open.
And we'll see our first 2-point conversion of the game later on, not today, as incomplete pass there, and it's now 12-6 with about 5:28 left to go in the first.
It may come down to whoever can get the first 2-point conversion.
We saw that happen a little bit last Friday in the game we did for.
Still want to remind everybody about our concession stand.
For Providence, and yeah, that was the game we did with Providence. Actually, not Providence, Franklin Christian. That was
you're thinking of
Franklin Christian.
South Haven. Yes, that's what you're thinking of.
That's what it came down to, some 2-point conversions where if South Haven had converted those, they would have won the game. And it's one of those cases where it doesn't hurt to have a field goal kicker on your side of the ball to at least get that 1 point.
I know,
edge.
and that's what Franklin Christian did. They took the field goal kicker to their advantage. They scored a touchdown, and they got the extra point. They went for the 1 extra point, and then they scored the second touchdown and I think they went for 2 because it was 18-7. So they went 18-15. That way they were in field goal range. And that's what's good about having a kicker. Even if you do give up 18 quick points, you're never really out of it because you can score from anywhere on the field. Or on your side of the field, their side of the field.
And booted deep again.
And a kickoff.
Ball will go out of bounds, and they'll place it at the 40-yard line.
So we'll have a
good field advantage for Franklin Classical to start out with. And don't know if we'll get a penalty announcement from Ronnie Perkins on this, because they usually don't announce the kickoff penalties. So, yep, they usually don't announce those, but we'll.
So the Knights elect to take the penalty. They'll have 1st and 10 at their 35-yard line.
Hear them very, very faintly because of the distance, and yep, one of the few times they actually do announce the kickoff going out of bounds there. So
let's go.
It's on. We can hear him. It's just really low because he's got it tucked inside of his jacket.
They're trying to figure out the placement on the kick here, because they marked the 15. They marked the penalty yardage off from where the kick was from. As we're gonna go back, there it is.
Yep, there it is. Back to the 40-yard line, making sure the placement and everything. Good job by Ronnie Perkins and company to get everything straight away.
And it's always good to take your time and making sure the call is right instead of trying to rush and be wrong.
Yep.
Because that could have been a huge call because they get the ball on the other side of the field.
Yep. All the way on the other 40-yard line. They would have gotten a nice territory right off the bat. So
this is the worst field position that Franklin Classical has had so far, and that's a testament to how good Eli Cornett has been returning the ball tonight.
So a 1st and 10. Salstrand is just going to quarterback keep. And Salstrand looking for some room. He's going to plow through for the 1st down on the forward progress and inch closer to the Classical Knights territory.
And Salstrom had another broken play there by a low snap. But that's a good job of recognizing that he had a hole to the right side. Go ahead and just trying to get whatever you can out of it, and it ended up being a first down. So Salstrom's IQs has been shown so far in this game.
So now on a 1st and 10, Salstrom deep downfield. Overthrew his man. Incomplete, intended for Ethan Keller.
So let's see if we can see the replay right there. It looked like Keller actually had passing. There it is. Now watch Keller extend his arm. That very easily could have been offensive pass.
It could have been. Looked like there wasn't enough to justify it there, but
yes.
2nd and 10. Classical has very few plays to this point as Salstrom tosses it. Catch made by Eli Cornett. It's a good connection under pressure before his knee was down, and gets it to about a 3rd down and 11.
And that was another good job by Salstrom going ahead and flipping it to Cornett, because that's a difference between a 3rd and 14 and a 3rd and 11 right there.
Good thing there was a receiver in the area.
Yes, it was. That's usually your dump down guy.
And again, they're having issues with the center today as Salstrom still making something. Nothing. Toss to the left side. Is that a pick? Nope, incomplete. Looked like it was in the area of Will O'Neal. It went out of bounds, and now a 4th down and 11. It looks like Classical's offense coordinator Zach Ray. He's going to have to talk to his center and get him hyped up.
That's just little things, right? That you talk about at the beginning of the game. Those are things that really shouldn't happen. Out of the how many ever plays, only 3 or 4 of them have had clean snaps, as they are going for it inside their own 40, inside their own 50. But that's because of how high-powered this Riverside offense is. They have to try and keep up.
Especially that, and they're trusting their defense. Salstrom looking for something to go, tosses it, incomplete. Pass intended, just good coverage there, looked like by Whitworth. And the pass was intended to look like Ethan Keller, turnover on down.
And that was another low snap. And what a low snap does is takes your whole offense out of the rhythm, because you have to, Salstrom has to reach down, pick the ball up off the ground, then readjust his eyes to find where his receivers are. And if, for instance, let's say Cornett beats a guy, his man deep, but Salstrom's still looking down, he may not be able to make that throw because of the low snap. And there's going to be a false start.
First official flag of the game, aside from kickoff.
Dead ball foul, movement prior to the snap. False start on the offense. 5-yard penalty, remains 1st down.
Ronnie Perkins, the Whitecap for tonight's game, coordinator for the Mid-State Officials Association, and doubles over as a referee sometimes. And
it looked like that was Ezel who moved just a little before the snap.
So moves back 5 yards there for a 1st and 15. Handoff up the middle, and weaving through again. Just incredible footwork by Crutcher Ezel, and that's going to move it. What was a 1st and 15 is now about a 2nd and 4.
Now watch this block by Raymond Hunt. As you're going to see here, that was another read option play. But watch Hunt right at the middle. He's the up back right there. Watch him go ahead and clears that hole for Ezel to get that 1st down.
Close to the 1st down, but 2nd and 4. And there's Raymond Hunt with the ball, weaving through. Completely slippery. And gain of maybe a yard or 2 for a 3rd down, but Hunt almost looked like he wasn't going to get tackled there.
No, he waited for his hole to open up. He just ran out of time there. Didn't really have as much time as he wanted. As we have 2:48 to go in the 1st quarter, a huge 3rd down here already. This is a huge 3rd down already for Franklin Classical, because you want to get this Riverside offense off the field as many times as you can.
And on a 3rd and 1, Crutcher Ezel is going to take it. He's going to get the 1st down, staying on his feet. And down to about the 28-yard line.
As we're gonna watch another replay, but look at how Ezel. Watch how Ezel's. That's my bad. Rebelski makes his cuts right there. He waited for this defender to commit before cutting back to the inside. So the defender committed to the outside running lane, and Rebelski noticed that, cuts back inside, and is able to get the first down.
Deep toss to the end zone, overthrown just a little bit, intended for Whitten. Could have been a touchdown, but it's incomplete there.
And that's and you take a shot there because because Franklin Classical was expecting a run play. You've ran the ball every first down the whole game. So going ahead and doing that little play action pass to Ezel caught the attention of the defenders and the cornerbacks, as the cornerbacks could step up, which opened up Whitten on the long throw.
So here is now a 2nd and 10. There's a direct run up the middle by Jake Rubelski, getting to the outside. Rubelski trying to go towards, and a 1st and goal for Riverside Christian.
And what you're going to notice is throughout this whole game, watch how patient these ball carriers are for Riverside. Look, they wait for the defenders to commit before making their moves. So right there, I didn't catch the number from Franklin Classical. He broke down, and when Rebelski realized what was going on, he went ahead and broke because he was slowing down. The Franklin Classical defender was slowing down, and Rebelski knew that if he went ahead and we'll talk about after this play.
Rubelski, toss right side. The catch is made. Is he to the goal line? Touchdown! Riverside with another 6.
As here comes as we're going to look at the replay, if we got it.
It's going to bring it to 18-6 with just under.
As we get to the jukes at the end. Yeah, so right there, that was a little bit of an out route there by Crutcher Ezel. Rebelski on the same page as Ezel. As soon as the ball is snapped, Ezel had his man beat. So Rebelski went ahead and threw the ball.
And quarterback keep. Rebelski trying to get to the end zone. And the first 2-point conversion. First 2-point conversion. Rebelski gets it. To make that now 22-6 with 1:38 left to go in the first. Riverside has got a controlling lead thus far over Franklin Classical. Riverside, a 14-point lead thus far in Franklin Classical School's homecoming game, and see how Franklin Classical can respond. And here's a pickup and a return by Jed Mangrum for a few yards and goes up to about the 42-yard line.
And another good field position by for Franklin Classical. They're going to have to start converting these. Their special teams is having a great game so far as we have a timeout by Franklin Classical. But like, they've put themselves in good position to go down and score. Having the ball at the 40-yard line every time is almost must-score territory against this Riverside defense because you don't want to go down like they are right now, 20-6. If you go down 26, it's hard to contain this offense. Lancaster did a good job last week of slowing them down in the second half. But I guarantee you that was preached all week. Finish strong, finish strong, finish strong. It doesn't matter how you start, it's how you finish. And for Classical, they're going to have to pick it up. This is I don't really like saying big drives. Either I say I don't like putting a lot of emphasis on drives, for instance. But this one right here is monumental in their comeback bid.
Finish is the team motto for Riverside Christian Academy, instilled by Coach Creasy, and they try to put that through in every one of their game mentalities. Of course, you don't always win, but came pretty close last week in their home game against Lancaster Christian. On a 1st and 10, toss left side incomplete, and this brings up 2nd and 10. Hubbard took the quarterback position, tried to get something going, but nothing doing.
And that was just a little high there. But look for them to try to get Cornett involved in the game. Salstrand's had done a good job, but really he's been their only threat so far this game.
Yeah, Salstrand, one of the key players for Franklin Classical, as he hands it up there, and Cornett trying to get through the middle. Gain of about 4 or 5 yards, 3rd down.
As here we go. Riverside again collapses on the interior, which was a short game for Cornett. Franklin Classical needs to start looking for getting Cornett to the outside because of his speed. Being able to beat that outside defender is going to be critical to Franklin Classical for the rest of this game.
Franklin Classical has got to get a score here more than likely. 45 seconds left in the first. Here's Hubbard again. Toss to the left side, and the catch is made. But did he lose it? Waiting for a ruling. Incomplete. Ruled on the field incomplete. Looks like it may have been a catch and fumble, but let's see what our camera angle says here.
As here we go. Now watch Salstrand stay in the pocket until the very last second. As here come.
We'll see what we got from. Looks like. All right, looks like the Ronnie Perkins having a discussion on the field with Coach Austin. But let's look at the replay here, see if it's a catch.
It looked like he did not possess the ball before he was hit. Right, as here we go. That wasn't Salstrand. That was.
Hubbard. Hubbard was in at the quarterback position. Okay. Knocked out before the knee went down. It was close.
As it didn't look like he ever possessed the ball before getting hit.
That was an attempted catch by Gerasi. And now on a 4th down, it looks like Austin was having a discussion with Perkins, trying to clarify something there, as Hubbard tossed to the left side. What a catch! Caught in coverage. That was Dylan LaFleur on the coverage for the Classical receiver, and another injury on the field for Classical, or at least a stoppage of time there, and looks like Jed Mangrum is a little shaken up.
Now watch the communication. Now watch when Hubbard releases the ball. We can't really see it, but right there, Hubbard releases the ball right before I can't see who that number is.
That was Dylan LaFleur on the coverage.
Was it Mangrum?
I believe Mangrum made the catch, yep.
And as soon as Mangrum made that cut and led Mangrum to perfection. And led Mangrum to where he throw was to the outside. Oh, no, it was incomplete. He dropped the ball.
So they ruled it incomplete on the field, and maybe he stepped out of bounds on the side. The officials got a better angle than we do, as rush up the middle. For Riverside, and turnover down, 2nd down. Let's look at that replay one more time as we get to the end of the 1st quarter here, because I'm not sure.
I don't think he ever came down with it, actually.
Yeah, it's either that or he stepped out of bounds before he
was well in
the
the field of play. Right there.
1, 2.
He doesn't have it.
Okay,
nope.
That was a good call.
Great call.
And at the end of 12 minutes, we've got a game on our hands for homecoming. It's a 14-point lead, but 20-6. Riverside leads over Franklin Classical. Kingdom.com Extreme Game of the Week is sponsored by Grace Point Healthcare. Modern medicine the old-fashioned way. Grow, Live, Give, helping you fit all of the pieces together in your financial puzzle. Tennessee Heat Athletics. Visit TennesseeHeatSports.com. And by Jets Pizza of Springfield, Fort Campbell, Clarksville, and Goodlettsville. Let's get Jets. 12 minutes to go. 12 minutes gone. 36 minutes left in the Kingdom.com Extreme Game of the Week, not including the stoppage and halftime and everything in between. Spencer Thompson, Zachary Lone, and Jack Helwig bringing the action from Fred Lane Field as Crutcher Ezel gets brought down in the backfield for a loss of 2 yards, and that Knights defense is not giving Crutcher Ezel a chance to put his stats up.
After that first 2 drives. But those two, that was a good read there by Franklin Classical. They read that the option was coming there, so he went ahead and he covered the quarterback. And so Ezel and Rebelski were both covered there, and Rebelski tried to make that last-ditch throw just to where he could get some yardage, and Ezel had nowhere to run.
Speaking of Ezel, here's another run again, trying to push up the middle. He's not going to get a first down. Get a gain of maybe 8-9 yards, and 4th down in Classical territory. And the question for Creasy and Coach O'Neill here is, where do you go? Do you punt it away, try to pin him deep, or
no?
You go for it. You go for it here to try and get the score, get your lead even higher.
You keep your foot on the pedal because you go ahead and you try and keep scoring here because you don't want the same thing that happened last week. You don't want to go ahead and play conservative.
And
we have a false start.
Get the call from Perkins.
Dead ball foul. Movement prior to the snap. False start on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 4th down.
Yeah, that's a good question from producer Jack. Do you still go for it here, Zachary?
Well, they are not. I would have. I would have made a statement to my guys and said, "Hey, look, last week we played a little conservative in the second quarter, and that ended up costing us in the long run. Let's go ahead and because they would have. Oh, here comes the punt.
And LaFleur boots it away, and instead of Mangrum taking it up, he's going to let the contact there at about the 12-yard line. So Classical will start out their drive deep in their own territory. Well, coming up on the halftime, the Kentucky Kingdom and Hurricane Bay halftime show, we'll give you our thoughts and analysis of not just this half, but give you scores from around the league, and we will give you a shot of something special that Franklin Classical School is doing at their homecoming game, and it's all coming up on the Kentucky Kingdom and Hurricane Bay halftime report. So now Classical is going to start out their offensive drive inside of their own 20-yard line. We'll see what this Riverside defense can do after their offense going 4th and out. And brought down in the backfield, a sack on Classical. That's Riverside's Michael Whidden getting the tackle in the backfield and just able to weave through that offensive line.
That's the handoff there. South Strand's back in the backfield. But they need to start getting Cornette into the game plan, because getting Cornette will be able to spread out this offense. Because we highlighted him in the open as one of the guys to watch out for Franklin Classical, and he really hasn't been able to get going. They really haven't made an assertive effort to get him going into this game. So look for that to change in the next few plays.
Loss of about 6 for a 2nd and 16, and another chance. As it's not quite in the end zone. It's a loss of another 3 yards. It's close there and about the 2 or 3 yard line. And it's like I alluded to earlier. It looks like Classical Center is he's having an off day, but nothing that necessarily can't be taken care of with some hype on the sideline.
That one was a little bit to Sawstern's a little low and to his outside left offhand there. So that's why Sawstern wasn't able to go ahead and grab it before. Here we go.
And on a 3rd down, Sawstern scrambling. He's trying to get the pass off. He's stuck in his own end zone, and that's a safety. Waiting for the ruling from the official. That's a safety. 22-6. Didn't catch who had the safety there for Riverside, but another 2 points go to the Riverside Knights.
I mean, that was one of the better snaps of the game so far. You have to go ahead and you have to make sure that you get positive yards there. You're stuck in your end zone if you're slushers. You can't really hold on to the ball as long as you did. As now, it's going to be a punt off back to Riverside's offense, and Classical's only stopped them twice so far. They did a good job of stopping them last drive, but now you're asking them to do it 2 times in a row. I mean, we were talking about 2-point conversions maybe becoming a big factor in this game. Now it's like Riverside's has only missed 1.
We had safeties more often this season than any of the seasons I've done for 8-man football. We've had at least, I think, 3 in our extreme games of the week. 3 or 4,
At
maybe?
least.
But granted, that's an attribute to a lot of the events that happened in the offseason. That punt away is going to be picked up by that's Marcus Whitworth who picks it up and goes to about the 45-yard line, and Riverside will start in Classical's territory.
And now, if you're Classical, you have to get this stop. There's no ands, if, or buts about it, because you're still within 2 possession game. But if you watch Riverside methodically drive their way down the field, convert third downs, or have big plays, you are so really just like it's pulled out of you.
It's a 14-point game, a 16-point game right now. They need to score 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions. 2-possession game, but there's a rush by Jake Rubelski, who just waited, and patience is a virtue as we saw in that play.
And that's another one of those. This is another one of those read options. Watch him wait right there. Watch him wait and wait for the hole to open up, and Ezel made that block. And that was a good job of number 9, Miles Menard, going ahead and making that tackle while he's on the ground. But those are the plays we're talking about.
Crutcher Ezel tries to weave through, and several Classical players surround him for a gain of 4 yards.
And then they went right back to the run up the middle there, where Franklin Classical's defense went ahead and they just collapsed on it again. But that middle, when they put Ezel run to the outside and Rubelski doing the read option, Rubelski being able to hold on to the ball and running right up the middle as after this.
There's left side rush, Raymond Hunt. Raymond Hunt weaving through inside of the 10-yard line for a 1st and goal.
As Hunt there made a cut to the outside, and if you're Franklin Classical, you have to find a way to push him out of bounds there before he gets all the way down to the, what is that? Is that they can get a first down without getting a touchdown here, it looks like. Maybe get to the inch line?
It looks like it's actually 1st and 10 outside, so it's not a 1st and goal. Any defensive penalty here will more than likely give them half the distance to the goal and a touchdown, but there go. Speaking of a touchdown, Crutcher Ezel makes it look easy. Another 6 for Riverside on the road.
Now those read options has really set this play up. Watch now watch the whole Classical defense right here in the middle. They all collapse to the middle, leaving it one-on-one outside with Ezel and the one defender. And Ezel only had to make one move there to go up 28-6. And this is about the era last week where Lancaster started putting something together.
28-8 was the score at halftime, so don't think for 1 second that Classical can't make it back here. And almost untouched is Rubelski for a score of 30-6 now. And Coach Austin and company have a lot to talk about on the sidelines and at halftime to regroup.
More than anything, just motivating his guys. You really, yes, this is the show that you wanted. But you got to remind you guys, this is our homecoming. This is our senior night. We don't let people come in on our night and just run the score up and take control. And that's what's happened so far. Riverside's taking control of this game early. Aside from that early touchdown by Classical, they've really controlled the tempo. They've really controlled the field position battle.
So if you want to
It's
have a chat with me and see if we can
Classical really needs to score maybe twice before half just to start feeling good about themselves again. Because at the moment it looks like Riverside's about to Riverside will probably score before half.
We'll see if Classical can make any response. And Classical received at the start of the game, so Riverside will get it to open the second half. Makes it all the more pressure for Franklin Classical to get a score here. And picked up for a return. Only a few yards gained.
picked up by Enzo.
And that is
Moves the ball
about
forward
the
just a little bit,
18-yard line.
where your Knights will take
And
over first and 10.
maybe they have to start getting, I've said this multiple times throughout these past two drives, they have to get Cornette involved. Getting Cornette involved will open up the whole field. As Riverside had started to get Raymond Hunt involved, getting him involved and being able to put Crutcher Ezel out wide was really what set up that touchdown. Hunt being able to, his vision to get to the left side and make that cut to the outside really makes the defense stop in second and focus on the backfield. So as Cornette is lining up wide again as a receiver, maybe look for a screen pass or a little slant route to start off this drive.
Eli Cornette came from Centennial High School, played in their football program for a few years. It's definitely improved. And a catch across the middle. And Dylan LaFleur with the contact to try and bring him down. And I believe that was Mangrum who made the reception out of that, or Cornette. But regardless, that's a big reception going across midfield.
As that, there was, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was that slant. He runs that little slant route
Cornette,
to the
yep.
middle. Cornette, getting him involved is going to be the key for a comeback because of all the weapons that Franklin Classical has. You don't really just need to be relying on Salstrand or Hubbard. You need to go ahead, as is there a flag in the backfield?
Wait to see what the call is. There is a flag. We'll get it on. We'll get Perkins' word in just a moment. And discussing with the officials. Calling on the other side, waiting for.
It's going to be an eligible receiver downfield.
Looks like they're not making the. Waiting to see if he's going to make the penalty call. Probably not. Here we go.
Ineligible receiver downfield, 5 yards from the previous spot, remains first down.
What looked like an amazing catch there for Classical overruled.
Still, that's more of what you want. That's more of what you want to see. Getting Cornette more involved here, going into late. As there are 6 minutes and 50 seconds to go in the first half. Getting Cornette more involved in the game is going to be a huge key for the rest of this game.
So what was a big first down across midfield is now a 1st and 15. Quick toss, incomplete. So fire from Salstrand, incomplete, intended for his man Keller.
Across the middle.
But
Knights will have
as you could see, getting Cornette involved that last play, Cornette came behind the line of scrimmage there as maybe a little jet sweep touch pass kind of play, and it forced Riverside's defense to take a step in to try and make sure Cornette doesn't get to that outside, which was able to get Keller open on that post route.
2nd and 15. Hubbard slings it, incomplete. Again, the pass intended for Gerasi this time.
As that was behind the receiver. And here we go. Huge third down. As are they marking off field? No, they are not. That was my bad. I thought they were marking off yardage.
3rd down and 15. And low snap again. And Hubbard to the left side. Incomplete. And Geraci with the incomplete. And some of the fans wanted a pass interference on there, but incomplete. Now a 4th down. Now Classical, we'll see them punt it away here, and maybe Crutcher Ezel back to receive. And
Fourth down, we have a punt. Takes a
just
roll.
go down and picked up there by Raymond Hunt. Raymond Hunt, when he turns on the Jets, he's dangerous. One of our first punt return touchdowns of the season, and Riverside has another 6.
And that was shades of who was it back? Freedom.
45 yards.
Can't remember his name, but he waited for the ball, waited for the bounce, waited for the punt coverage to commit to the left side of the field. No, yeah, left side of the field. Hunt picks it up, saw the whole left side of the field wide open, and it's made that back cut to the middle of the field, and it's now a 30-point game.
Everything just going perfectly for Riverside right now. Classical does have plenty of time to be able to make it back and get something going, but at the moment it's just what one might call a struggle bus. 2-point conversion attempt is no good. So make that 36-6, a 30-point lead that Riverside has over Classical at about 6:12 left to go in the second. Kickoff here for Riverside as they lead 36-6. Again, they're going to receive the second half kickoff. Plenty of time until then, but it's going to dribble down as Cornett tries to get the return. And it's just a stiff arm one of Riverside's players there as he cuts to the right side and down to about the 40-yard line.
As we're going to see the replay on that one. Watch the patience there. Waits for the blocker setup, makes that first stiff arm, and then when he makes a cut back, he just wasn't able to get back to the outside for, can't really see the number there, for that last block. But there we go, a good field position to start off for Classical.
So now 1st and 10 for Franklin Classical, and flags fly. Excuse me, not flags fly. It's a timeout there for.
Timeout on the field, ladies and gentlemen.
Timeout there. We're going to step aside. We apologize for the camera going out there. We'll. All right, ladies and gentlemen, looks like our camera just suddenly cut off for any reason, but didn't miss a big play there. Rush up the middle for about 2nd down and 11 with a loss of 1. We're troubleshooting it right now to see what we can do, and camera giving us a little bit of issues here. We apologize for that. We will try to get it up and running. At least for now, it'll be an audio-only broadcast for the moment.
Another high snap there.
It's a high snap and deep toss to the left side by Hubbard. It's incomplete. Looked like it could have been a one-handed catch there by Cornett, and incomplete. And it'll be gotten to 3rd down and 12.
As that was another low snap. But a great job there to go ahead and extend the play. And Cornett was there. It looks like he ran a little bit too far in on the ball and just kind of misread it. But here we go, a huge 3rd and 11 coming up.
So now on a deep toss to the left side by Hubbard, again intended for Cornett, overthrown. He was at about the 42-yard line. The ball landed at the 40 in Riverside's territory, and now a 4th down and 12.
So Cornett there ran that little drag wheel route, ran the drag and then cut back up field, and that was almost perfect timing there from Sahlstrom to Cornett. As it brings up a huge 4th down as
So another 4th down attempt here, and they're going to go for it. Hubbard scrambles to his right, is pressured, scrambles to his right with the toss, and it's intercepted. Riverside got the pick. That's, I believe, Crutchery Zell or Marcus Whitworth.
As that wasn't Hubbard on the throw, that was Sahlstrom.
Sahlstrom on the throw.
As the ball was intended for Cornett, Sahlstrom had so much pressure in his face there that he wasn't able to figure out.
And it's tossed over and intercepted there, and now it's for 1st and 10 going to the other side of the 45-yard line.
Sorry about that.
And now a 1st down on the 45.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And first offensive play for Riverside, a toss to the left, incomplete. Pass looked like it was intended for Lendley, as we're still trying to troubleshoot what's going on here.
The throw there was a little low as the comeback, as both the receiver and the defender there tripped. But the throw was available. As of right now, we're having an audio broadcast.
Yep, audio-only broadcast at the moment. We'll get the camera functioning up and running as soon as we can. Spencer Thompson, Zachary Long, Jack Elwood troubleshooting the issue right now. We'll hopefully get it up and running. As here's a cut again. Rubelski gets tripped up at about the 40-yard line for now a 3rd down and 14.
And that's the containment we were talking about. Classical needs to do a better job of containing Rubelski on those pass plays, because when Rubelski gets to the outside, he draws the eyes of all the defenders to where he isn't able to, where the defense isn't able just to focus on their man because they're worried about Rubelski scrambling. But a good job there by the left end, going ahead and playing lateral to where he was in position. As here comes a huge 3rd and 15.
3rd and 15. Another scramble by Rubelski. He's going to quarterback, keep it to the left side, weaving through the defense. Rubelski is going to get the 1st down just about.
I think he may be short.
Might be a little bit short, and it was 3rd down. But
it looks like they gave it to him.
And waiting for the signal here, but possibly a 1st down.
We have a flag on the play. Let's see what's happening.
There is a flag. Looks like it could be a holding call.
See if we can get the call from Perkins in just a moment. The officials discussing it on the far side. And wait for the call from Perkins. Still waiting. He's discussing it with his guys, and I think we'll get the call shortly.
81. Personal foul, horse collar. 15 yards will be tacked on to the end of the run. 1st down.
Looks like they called that on Zach Penrod, the junior. The portion you called there, so 15-yard penalty, horse collar, and they moved that up to the 30-yard line in classical territory as Riverside marches down the field with 3:50 and counting left to go in the 1st half. The quarterback keep Rubelski again with the rush.
There's a flag in the backfield. It looks like it was a legal motion or legal substitution.
We'll see. And We'll see if we can get it. See if we can get the call from. They're waiting for Austin to get.
Illegal shift against the offense. 2 men in motion prior to the snap before resetting. 5-yard penalty, repeat first down.
A little bit of motion there.
So we'll have a dead ball foul on the offense. Push the ball back 5 yards. Riverside will have first and 15.
Now on a 1st and 15.
And now, since this is a first and a long situation, Riverside, Franklin Classical needs to go ahead and get the stop here.
Jack,
Just try and take this game into the second half within a manageable score.
and another offensive play here for Riverside as staying on his feet. It looks like it was Marcus Whitworth. Gain of about 5 or 7 yards on the play after the illegal motion, and now a 2nd down and 7.
As here we go. Like, that was a good job of the Classical defense to go ahead and that's another one of their containments there, making sure that Ezel wasn't able to get to the outside. As here comes the next play.
So now a 2nd down and 6. Second down and 6 here as the fans getting loud here. The fog settling in on the other side of the field as toss across the middle, incomplete. Pass intended by Rubelski. Looked like across the middle either to Whidden or one of his other teammates, and incomplete for now a 3rd down and 6.
Looks like the contact there could have been a little bit early. But here we go. Here, huge 3rd and long. You have to get off the field here. There's no exceptions if you're Franklin Classical. You've done a good job these past 2 plays of making it to where it is a 3rd and long, being able to where you are an advantage here, where they will probably, as they're going to look for that quarterback option with Rubelski and Crutcher Ezel, as the handoff goes to the backside to Raymond Hunt to the outside, and he gets the 1st down.
Raymond Hunt with the 1st down for Riverside Christian.
And there's the 1st down. Another 1st down.
Plus about 5. So it looks like Riverside will have 1st and 10 from about the 12-yard line.
So we'll do audio only for the rest of the first half. We apologize for that. Our camera giving us some issues here. We'll troubleshoot it with about 2 minutes left to go in halftime. And so now 1st and 10 on about the 12-yard line. Inside the red zone, Riverside trying to get another score here for halftime as it's a sweep pitch. Ezel to the left side, tries to cut out his man, staying on his feet. Crutcher Ezel looks like just short of the goal line. Gets his team even closer. I believe they'll spot him at about the 2-yard line to make it a 2nd and 10. And again, the spotting was outside of the 10-yard line, so not a 1st and goal, so now about a 2nd and 1.
So what they did there is, as soon as the snap came, Rubelski, Ezel went to motion behind Rubelski, run to the left side. Rubelski gets the ball, pitches it over to Ezel, and really Classical broke containment there and weren't able to get to the outside to stop. As here comes the next play as Hunt is driven backwards. As the ball came loose.
A little bit of whistles there. Looks like Riverside retained the ball, but Raymond Hunt just stopped by that pile.
Is stopped short of the goal line. Bring up 3rd down.
And make that about 50 seconds and winding down left to go in the now 45 seconds left, and they spotted it's a 1st down. So 1st and goal officially.
So he was able to get the 1st down.
Yep. And waiting for the signal for the clock to run as Riverside not that much to worry about, of course, but wanting to get another score. And there we go, 44 seconds left.
If you're Classical, this is as we said all time, must stop as he's.
And up the middle. Is it in the end zone? Waiting for.
He marked him short.
Just short. And timeout called on the field by Riverside, they're going to think it over with 26 seconds left to go before the end of the first half. Riverside on the verge of getting a more dominant lead.
Mr. Shearer, could you come up?
As here we go back with 26 seconds to go in the first half. As Rebelski pass short to Ezel, and he reaches in the end zone, and he falls forward into the end zone for a touchdown. Riverside to go up 42-6.
I believe we got our camera working now. And there we go. Apologize for the sudden cutoff there, ladies and gentlemen. We got it up and running, but touchdown there by Riverside. Riverside to go up by another 22 seconds left to go.
So what you don't see there was another one of those screen passes as Riverside did earlier in the game to Ezel. Ezel actually got hit by two defenders, but him being able to power through and fall forward is what gave which he fell in the end zone for the touchdown.
And 2-point conversion attempt is no good. Make that 42-6. It's not a 35-point lead at this. Actually, I believe it is a 35-point lead.
It's 30. It's not 35. It's 36.
36-point lead. So at halftime, more than likely at halftime, FCS will say, nope, we're still going to fight for it, especially on halftime. We're not going to have a running clock. And let's get a shot of the fog that's on the field, actually. I think our camera will pick it up a little bit, but some of the fog and sand there, it's a beautiful night for football, even with the fog and everything. It's partly cloudy, 72 degrees outside, and it's definitely a good day for football.
It feels great out here. This is what you live for Friday nights. Perfect weather, no rain, 72 degrees. And if you're upset about a little fog, then don't know what to tell you.
I've never heard of anybody upset by a little bit of fog. That'd be a first for me in this industry.
Over to the track.
You'd be surprised, honestly.
Who have you met that's upset by fog?
Some people from my high school.
Ah, okay. Well, rolling kick, and it's Classical gets it, and we'll see if they can get anything done with 19 seconds left to go in halftime.
It's going to be interesting to see, will Classical just go ahead and try and stop the bleeding and send us to the second half with a knee, or are they going to try and get a quick score? Because if I'm Classical, I'm trying to push the ball down the field to where we do get a score before half to try and get just a little momentum going in to the break.
So it looks like that's what they're going to do. No kneeing in the half, try to get a score, especially since Riverside receives the second half kickoff. Scramble by Salstrin. Salstrin toss, incomplete. Coverage there by LaFleur.
As they have started to look more towards Cornet's side, Cornet, and he really just hasn't been able to make the plays so far as he's used to making. We are going to, if you're Classical, you're gonna have to figure some things out before halftime, during half.
So now second down. And Salstrom with the pass. It looks like it's completed from this side. Cornet, and they stop it to spot the ball with 5 seconds left, but maybe enough time to get one play off here.
They have time for one final play, so maybe look for a hook and ladder, or maybe just something to get you into the second half with a little momentum. Maybe look for a cornet or and a Salstron quarterback option play, or if I am classical again, I am definitely doing the hook and ladder play, just trying to get something for half. Because if it goes wrong, there's really not a difference between 36 and 42. But from a morale standpoint, looking up and seeing a 28-point score is a whole different story than looking up and seeing a 36-point score deficit.
Take this time to remind you that the Kingdom.com Extreme Game of the Week is sponsored by Grace Point Healthcare, modern medicine the old-fashioned way. Grow, Live, Give, helping you fit all of the pieces together in your financial puzzle. Tennessee Heat Athletics. Visit TennesseeHeatSports.com. And by Jets Pizza of Springfield, Fort Campbell, Clarksville, and Goodlettsville. Let's get Jets. So likely the final play of the first half, a 3rd and 15 for Classical to face. Riverside has 2 men deep as Salstron airs it out to the right, and as time expires, it's intercepted. That's a pick, and Riverside could keep it going, get another score here. Raymond Hunt trying to weave through the defense. He's got room! Raymond Hunt stopped short. Almost a touchdown there by Raymond Hunt, but stopped short, and that's the end of the first half. 42-6, Riverside came to play, and they came to host their first Division I playoff game or potentially clinch that. Kentucky Kingdom and Hurricane Bay halftime report is coming up in just a moment. Welcome, everybody, to the Kentucky Kingdom and Hurricane Bay halftime report. I'm Spencer Thompson along with Zachary Lone. We apologize for the camera going out. We got it fixed. The issue is remedied. We are good to go. 42-6 the score at the half. Riverside came to play, but it just seems like no matter what Classical tries to do, it's just they're getting some unlucky deflections. Their coverage, the coverage by Riverside and the defensive front has been incredible. So for Riverside, they just need to hold the course here to potentially win the game.
But the crazy deflections come from your defense being in the right spots. Riverside came and they studied film. They were 100% prepared for what this Classical offense has to offer. And they probably got a good look from the South Haven game. Well, not South Haven game, 2 weeks ago. The first Ezel game. Being able to see what the weaknesses are of Classical was really, really helped Riverside so far in this first half.
Yeah, it's been a Riverside first half for sure, and obviously it was 6-6 at one point in this game, and Riverside has now scored about 34 unanswered points. What is Isaiah Austin telling to his guys right now in halftime to try and get him back in this game?
It's guys, look, there's still time on the clock. We still have 24 minutes. If they can score 42 points in a half, so can we. Our offense is just as good as their offense is. We have just as many playmakers as they do. Let's go out there and let's show that we are the better team in the second half. And when you're down by this much, you don't go and say, hey, let's go get all 36 points back in the third quarter. It's, hey, let's get the score down to 20. Let's get the score down to 15 or 18 points in the at the end of the first third quarter. That way you're not looking at such a big, lofty goal, and your guys don't feel down, even though you've outscored Riverside by 18 points in the third quarter, for instance.
That's exactly what Lancaster did last week, and look at what happened to them. So the seniors are lining up for their halftime. We have actually been asked by some of the parents at Franklin Classical to show this, so we'll go to just our game feed right now. And if you want to start, we'll start the clock timer as well, so it goes to about 12 minutes, 30 seconds left before the end of halftime. They're honoring all their seniors. They're going to have some sort of halftime show here. But let's give you some updates around the league through the app. In the third quarter right now, Franklin Christian Academy is leading 25-0 on the road against the Ezel Harding Christian School Eagles. So FCA looking like they're going to get one of their first games won for the South, or at least one of them, as I pull up our schedules to make sure I'm in alignment with that. Franklin Christian in their first playoff situation game, they're getting a victory against, they're potentially getting a victory against Ezel Harding. They're leading 25-0 in the third quarter. Of course, the score here 42-6. No scoring updates yet from White House, Tennessee. Lancaster Christian Community still tied at 0 as far as we have seen. The South Haven Christian School Patriots up in Bowling Green, 52-0. It's a tough game there for the Bowling Green Warriors, but it's South Haven just showing how skilled of a team they are again. And at halftime, the Tennessee Heat lead the Freedom Cowboys 38-20. So those are the scores we have for you around the league thus far. So we're going to keep the camera shot on here for halftime as they're honoring all of their seniors and everything. We will keep the audio on one headset open, and you guys will be able to hear everything for Franklin Classical, at least for the parents especially who are watching, because we're all about honoring those who are staying safe. All right, so here we go. We're going to step aside. The clock is accurate to how much is left in the halftime break, so be sure to stay tuned for that. So we'll step aside. We'll be back in about 10 and a half minutes, close to that. You're watching the Kingdom.com Extreme Game of the Week.
He plans to pursue a career in the entertainment industry, and he says, be who you want to be, folks. Let's hear it for Enzo. Our next senior is Mr. Ethan Keller with Blake and Kelly Keller. He plans to go to college and go pre-med, and he wants everybody to know it's real important to him that he has a 2.0 KD in Call of Duty. Let's hear it. His mom wanted to know, what in the world does that even mean? So Ethan, explain it to everybody. Our next senior is Mr. Clay Lott. Jane Barnes and Clint Lott. Aside from working on that mullet, Clay is going to go to college and major in business. There he is. Clay's got a little bit of an elbow injury, otherwise he'd be out there fighting with us, folks. Our next senior, Mr. Eli Cornett. Jeff and Tina Cornett are his parents. Not quite sure where he's going to go to school, but he's going. Looking to become a journalist and go into either television or film. Way to go, Eli. He is grateful for everybody at FCS, making him feel at home for the time he's been here. He loves all of his brothers, and he's happy to have this last go around. He says playing for this team has been one of the best experiences of his life. There you go. All right. Our next senior is Vincent Stokes. Tina and Dean Mullis are his parents. And we have another Air Force guy here. He plans to join the Air Force. And at some point, he wants to go into real estate. That sounds like a great idea. And we have a special shout out to another senior, Mr. Max DeBorn. He's one of our seniors who is an assistant coach. There he is. Thank you for your hard work, Max. Keeping your brothers rolling. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are our seniors for your FCS Knights. Let's give them another round of applause. Okay, now if you've been here since the beginning, I made a promise that there was going to be some amazing entertainment, and I was not allowed to tell you what it is, but now I am. If you'll direct your attention to this group of young ladies coming on the field. Yeah, there you go, give them a hand. This is our Franklin Classical School Dance Company.
tried to fix this right now, but they want me to record this shit for halftime. They want me to record their homecoming halftime show when the parents with Zach and
I just swear, young boy, the
Once
flow 30, ayy. No
they do
way.
their dance,
Talk to God, he said, boy, you went away. Nah, homie, let me glow right now. Nah, homie, let me
fine until like literally the last 5 minutes because like we were messing with all the camera and like
nah, homie,
I
let
had
me
it
hold on.
Can we switch the language? And like he told me how to fix it.
Used to walk to my own beat of drum internally state. But went from enemies to intimacy, I've been redeemed.
My bad on that again, buddy. I mean, I'll resend you updates. Like I said, it's 42 to 6 right now.
I don't do the most, but I do a lot. I'ma make a toast, cause we still alive. No big, I feel like pop. Shoot a shot. Coming in. Let's hear it for the Franklin Classical School Dance Company. First up is Sam Goodyear Brown from the class of 2020. Who is not out there? There he comes. Once a Scotsman, always a Scotsman. And next we have Emily Shearer from the class of 2011. Mr. Hal Moyer from the class of 2013. Ami Tenaple from the class of 2020. Maya Arthur from the class of 2020. Lauren Chapman, class of 2019. Abigail Sperry, class of 2020. Jenna Coughlin from the class of 2003. And Tom Coughlin from the class of 2007. Paul Michael, class of 2020. Liz Parolini from the class of 2020. Joshua Sperry, class of 2018. Also from the class of 2018, Maddie Tishner. Who, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is the one responsible for coaching and training and mentoring all of those young ladies in the dance company. Joanna Riadigi from the class of 1999. Ellie Pollard from the class of 2019. Kelsey Tishner from the class of 2008. Caroline Bender from the class of 2019. Amanda Ahrens from the class of 2017. Ariel Bullock from the class of 2018. Also from the class of 2018, Mary Holland. Another of their classmates from the class of 2018 is Abby Ragsdale. T.C. Harlow from the class of 2020. Drew Grahams, also from the class of 2020. Next is Nathan Gilmore from the class of 2005. Austin Greer from the class of 2003. Alumni, if you would, please vote. And I see Grayson Borders from the class of 2000.
Welcome to the start of the second half between Classical and Riverside. Spencer Thompson, Zachary Lone, Jack Helwig. Camera is working. We're good to go here at Fred Lane Field in Franklin, Tennessee. Just about 20 minutes from where I live. About 45 minutes, 50 minutes from where each of you guys live, but it's good nonetheless. The fog has definitely settled in here on the field, and still a decent enough shot for us to see what's going on, but it's more thick than usual. Riverside has dominated the entire first half, and it looks like it's going to be a running clock for the rest of the game unless Classical gets a touchdown.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see a 3-and-out here by Riverside. Franklin Classical had this big rush of emotion at halftime from the crowd. Their crowd's trying to back them up here, trying to get this critical stop, trying to get some momentum. Look for a 3-and-out possibly here.
So right now, as we have been told up in Christian community, we have no idea what the score is as a push rush through the middle, maybe a first down here.
So not a 3-and-out.
So not a 3-and-out there. It looks like they're going to move the chains for another first down. So we have no clue what the score is at CCS Lancaster. We've been waiting for scoring updates. Haven't gotten any at this point, but I imagine it has been an intense game in some form or fashion. Lancaster looking for their first win at May Flanders Field since they joined 8-man football in 2018.
I'm interested to see that score line, honestly. I want to see how Christian Community's defense holds up against an offense like Lancaster's.
And there's a pitch to Raymond Hunt. Raymond Hunt tries to get through. He's going to get a gain. Staying on his feet, Raymond Hunt weaves through and avoids everything for a touchdown for the Knights.
I think we're going to watch the replay here. He just lowers his shoulder, keeps his feet moving, and just runs over the defender right here. Watch him lower his shoulder. Right there, lowers his shoulder, and that's why they tell you to keep your feet moving, as no one was going to catch him. His speed, he's one of the fastest people we've seen all year in 8-man football in Tennessee or Alabama.
Raymond Hunt is already. I love to see his stat lines and see how that'll fare for the Extreme Player of the Week nomination as Ezel gets brought down in the backfield. 48-6, a 42-point lead, unfortunately, on homecoming night for Franklin Classical. The crowd has stayed into it. They've tried to encourage their team to go along, but it's been tough. We'll see if Classical can respond. You guys didn't hear on air, but we are having too much fun here in the booth with the Knight, just doing what we love and pursuing a career in sports media. Spencer Thompson, Zachary Lone, and Jack Helwig all having too much fun. And now a kickoff here for Riverside after they got a touchdown there from Raymond Hunt, and we'll see what they can do. It's one of these games that Classical can very much come back with, as it's still a mercy rule running clock right now, and Riverside just coming prepared to be the better team. As Eli Cornett is going to have the return here. And
At this point, if you're Classical, you're just trying to get momentum into your next game.
that's the big thing. Yep.
You down by 42 points. You're gonna have to, if you want a chance in this game, you're gonna have to score within the next minute, probably, and then get another score within the next 2 minutes. So you need 2 scores in 3 minutes just to give yourself a chance, because the running clock is such a big factor in games like this, where yes, Classical has the manpower and the explosiveness to come back, but I don't know if they had the time.
Running out of time as he sweep pass to Cornett. Cornett cuts to the other side, avoiding all the defense of Riverside. Cornett staying on his feet, still up, tries to cut, and Crutchery Zell's the one who forces him out of bounds at the 40-yard line.
That's a good about for a gain of 20. And that's another thing Cornett's really good at, which is what we really wanted to see. Well, I really want to see. I wanted to see his patience, waiting for his blockers to set up. And he's not afraid to go side to side. Yes, sometimes it comes back to bite you. And yes, coaches say, hey, don't do that. Keep running forward. But in times like those, that's where it comes in handy.
I'm going to go back to your point about building momentum into the next game in a second. But first we have 1st and 10. Classical again trying to score early. It's already taken about 60 to 90 seconds off of the game clock. And we'll get a call there for a false start.
Dead ball foul. False start. Movement prior to the snap. 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
Perkins and company mostly silent for tonight. Maybe about 5 or 6 penalties called. And actually maybe a little bit more, but they move it back for 1st and 15, and I'll go back to Zachary's point in just a moment after we get this play. And motion there as Sahlstrom tosses it right side. That's incomplete across the middle. And you know, Zach, you talk about the importance of this game and trying to get momentum. Look at Classical's schedule. They've got this game here at home. They travel on the road to looks like Lancaster, which that's gonna be a tough hill to climb if they're wanting to chase for the playoff. And then they host CCS, host Providence, at Franklin Christian for the Battle of Franklin, and then at South Haven. So it doesn't get easier from here in this homecoming night. It's a tough stretch of games they have ahead.
That might be the toughest closing stretch in the whole
conference.
Yes.
Sahlstrom with a deep toss, and how about that catch? Ethan Keller to the house, and Classical has stopped the mercy rule.
And that was a huge play as we now have 8 minutes to go. Maybe that's what they needed to get back in this game. Let's see if we can see this replay. There it is. Now watch Sahlstrom step up in the pocket as the defense, tackles, the ends get around the tackle, steps up, finds Keller open in the middle of the field. And this 2-point conversion here makes it to where the 35-point running clock doesn't happen. So the mercy rule can be stopped here.
They have to get the 2-point conversion for that, and it's lost by Sahlstrom. 2-point conversion is no good, so I believe the clock will still run a 36-point lead, but Classical getting a touchdown here, and we'll see if Austin can talk his guys into trying to climb up the tough mountain they have ahead. But mentioned about Classical's schedule, it's tough. That Lancaster game is going to be really tough for them on the road in Smyrna next week. But you look at Riverside Christian here as well. They travel on the road to FCA next week. They have a bye week, so they at least have some rest in them. But then 3 weeks in a row, Ezel Harding and at South Haven, and then hosting Providence. So essentially for Riverside, they're 0-1 right now in the South, looking to go 1-1. They'll know their playoff seeding essentially with the next 3 weeks, because once they face off against Ezel Harding, their seeding is defined. They just have to wait on everybody else.
If this result holds, Lancaster next week is the biggest game of the season. You pull out all the stops, because if you lose that one, your playoff hopes are very, very small at that point. So look for them to try and work on some plays in the second half to try and get ready as we that onside.
Onside attempt there, and does Classical get to it?
It looked like Whitten of RCA came down with
Timothy
it.
Whitten.
And Timothy Whitten right there. He actually bobbled it just a little. Made Riverside fans a little nervous for a couple of seconds there. But going back to Lancaster and FCS is next week is must win.
Yep. And that's a must win for so Lancaster, of course, they got the W in the South, and for them of course that's at Riverside. That was their first game, the game at Clinch of the South. Next week they get that W, they're in the playoffs. But the question is, where do they get seated in that? Because it's two wins. You have to get 2 wins in the South, and then you immediately have a playoff spot, which is what they're trying to do. Riverside is trying to get closer to that here. It's same with Classical, because both of these teams, they're 0-1 in the South right now in their records because of that heartbreaking loss to Ezel Harding in overtime. They're both 0-1, so this is essentially a must-win game for them too. Otherwise, they have to win out. They only have 1 game left to give up.
Yeah. I just don't know if there's enough time in this one left for Classical.
Yep.
Because now you're already halfway through the third quarter. And, yes.
With a 36-point game, that's 6 touchdowns. So a 6-possession game.
But
Left side, rushed there by Riverside. That's a keeper by, looks like it was Michael Whitten again.
actually, not necessarily. Because if you get the 2-point conversion, you go 8, you go 16, 24, 32. And then it's you're still 5 scores down. But being able to score if you score 2 touchdowns by the end of this quarter to make it maybe 28-48, all of a sudden
it's a 20-point game.
All of a sudden it's looking kind of interesting.
Depends on what Classical can do here on defense. They're, of course, running out of time, smartly saving all of their timeouts. And Classical's fan base getting excited here with a 3rd and 6 that they have to overcome.
But they might run the clock all the way down and then use a timeout.
Riverside again.
Go ahead.
Riverside again, as we mentioned, they will know where they are in the playoffs after week 9, which is October 16th, as it's a timeout called by Riverside with 5:26 left to go in the third. So we'll take the time to let you know the Kingdom.com Extreme Game of the Week is sponsored by Grace Point Healthcare, modern medicine the old-fashioned way. Grow, Live, Give, helping you fit all of the pieces together in your financial puzzle. Nice shot of us in the broadcast booth there. Tennessee Heat Athletics, visit TennesseeHeatSports.com. And by Jits Pizza of Springfield, Fort Campbell, Clarksville, and Goodlettsville. Let's get Jets. Spencer Thompson, Zachary Lowe, Jack Helwig. Quick shot of the broadcast booth, actually. We'll go to the pregame halftime here. It's still showing us up here on the bleachers. We'll show our man, Jack Helwig. Helwig gets to see his face for the first time, operating the camera stuff and everything. And it's been a decent game so far. Jack correcting me. They saw his face on Instagram. That's right. He did do the sip of the bang drinks, but good game here for Fred Lane Field. 3rd down and 6. Quick toss over, right side, and Raymond Hunt is stopped short of the first down marker.
There it is. Huge stop, actually. Huge stop right there. Taking Raymond Hunt down in the open field as there is an injured player.
Looks like either an injury there or timeout called to my knowledge.
Franklin Classical, that's their first charge.
Classical called a timeout. So they try to save some time with 5:11 left to go in the third, and that's the question you have to ask yourself when you're looking on the outside of the head coach position is, especially down by 36, when do you start calling your timeouts? What kind of situation do you do with that? And on a stop there on 4th down, I guess they're wanting to get some more scores in the third quarter and try to manage the time earlier on than have to use those timeouts down the stretch.
If they don't call that timeout, they have to go set the ball. Riverside runs off for 35, 36, maybe 39 seconds before they snap it. So by the time Classical would have the ball back it would actually run off about 55, 60 seconds, and you're looking at 4:11. But maybe look for Riverside to try and fake this one here because they are already in classical territory.
And they'll just opt to punt it away.
Pretty good punt.
And
It's
now
going to take
the
a Riverside roll.
Girassi was back deep to receive, but touchdown at about the 10-yard line. So a lot of field for the Knights to cover, but as we've seen from their players, they might be able to get it down the field in a short amount of time.
So now what you're looking at is maybe Riverside's offense is starting a little stagnant. That was the problem last week. But does Classical have enough in them to make a comeback this big? And another thing, let's say they do come back and make it big. How much is left in the tank if they come all the way back and tie it up?
How much is left in the tank is a toss over incomplete. Looks like two Riverside players collided with each other, and both of them are injured on that. Looks like Raymond Hunt is down, and the other injury there, it's Will O'Neill. Looks like they collided, crossing paths on the defensive side, and we will step aside as the Riverside staff tend to him. Spencer Thompson, Zachary Lone, Jack Helwig. Second down here, and incomplete pass intended for Classicals. Looked like it was Girassi. And now on a 3rd down and 10, Classicals still has the clock running on him.
Well, this is 4-down territory no matter what if you're Classical.
Yep, no punts. So now on a 3rd down and 10. We'll see what Sahlstrom can do. Staying on his feet, Sahlstrom weaving through. Again, he's dangerous when he gets free, and finally brought down by Alex Thompson. Gets a gain of probably about 7-8 yards, close to the 1st down marker, but it'll be 4th down. So they give him 7 yards on that.
Watch how many tackles he breaks here. He breaks
so
1.
Many.
He breaks 2. 3.
And then finally the fourth
The
guy
fourth
has
one.
to grip and bring him down.
And he's still gained about 3 yards after that contact. Just him not willing to go down.
Nope.
That's just again, it looked like that might be on the defense.
We'll get the call.
Dead ball foul, movement prior to the snap. False start on the offense. 5 yards. Remains 4th down.
Ronnie Perkins and company. Officiating tonight's game. Perkins, the umpire. Ronnie Perkins, the referee. Umpire Philip Kimbrough. Andra Johnson, the linesman. Dave Connors, the line judge. Quincy Engel, back judge. And Reggie Brown operating the clock in stadium today. So now called back in another high snap that goes behind and recovered by Riverside. In the end zone, it's a touchdown. Another 6-4 Riverside Christian Academy Knights.
Good news is they get the ball right back. And possibly better field position. Not the worst thing in the world, unless they get the 2-point conversion.
If it's a 2-point conversion, then you're right. It can potentially get worse here. But.
Because the reason it's not the worst thing in the world is if they don't get the 2-point conversion, Franklin Classical goes down and scores a touchdown, and then they get the 2-point conversion, you have 54-20, and that's a 34-point game. So it's not really, it's not terrible.
It's still one of those situations that went, again, the Franklin Classical Knights have just had unlucky streak tonight as a reversal there, and I believe that's Timothy Whidden who tried to go in, and 2-point conversion is good, so make that now 56-12. 2:47 left to go in the third, and
It's just
winding down.
one of those nights where everything just goes against you, and those happen.
We got a kickoff coming, and the Knights will get the ball back.
Well, for at least with the way that things look, Franklin Christian and Franklin Classical, that is their both teams, their last divisional game is the second to last week of the season. So if the results hold here, and depending on what Classical could do against Lancaster Christian, that game will be a playoff clincher for the third seed in the South.
Franklin Classical will send Eli Cornett back to receive the kick.
And the Battle of Franklin in the last several years, that happened in 2000. That actually happened in 2017 here at Fred Lane Field. Falcons won against Franklin Classical, and that forced a three-way coin toss for seeding in the postseason, with Webb beating FCA, FCA beating Swanee, and Swanee beating Webb. We're here to call that in 2017 as it goes down to about the 37-yard line. And we'll see if Classical can get it done with 2 minutes and winding down left in the third. This is where the playoff scenarios start getting tricky, boys, because it's once it goes down the stretch, you start seeing some things. Of course, the North teams are essentially locked. Christian Community and South Haven have both locked their playoff spots, each team getting a W. And waiting to see how that game between Lighthouse and Sacred Heart turns out, because that will likely be for the third slot in the postseason.
Do we have any update on CCS?
I don't believe so. No scoring updates as of now. We would love to know what the score there is if anybody knows it. And there's a catch
Hubbard
across the middle by.
So that was Hubbard to Nicholas Garacci?
Looks like Garassi, maybe.
Garassi. Just say all the possible names.
Yes, just all of them. So now on a 1st and 10. Of course, the scores from the rest of the league. Franklin Christian, the final in Antioch. FCA gets the victory, their first playoff game, 38-0. And there's left side, QB Creek, and still to the house, almost to the house, loses the football, and it does go out of bounds. That's a really lucky break for Samuel Hubbard. Goes out of bounds for a 1st and goal.
Let's look at that again. I'm pretty sure he was out of bounds before he. Yeah, okay. Let's see if he was out of bounds before, because we had a good camera view. Out of bounds. No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't. He was lucky that the ball went out of bounds there, and. Now with 20 seconds left to go in the third, they've got to get a snap off here. Toss left side by Samuel Hubbard. The catch is made. Touchdown. Gerasi with 6 points for Franklin Classical.
And there it is. Gerasi getting position, recognizing the ball was thrown to the front pylon. Gerasi gets in front of his man, basically becomes like a basketball player, because since he's a bigger than, more like a taller guy. Hubbard through the goal line fade, and he just went up and got it.
2-point conversion attempt. Classical tries to get it going, but they'll be stopped short of the goal line. So make that 56-18 with 7 seconds left to go in the third.
Hubbard tries to take it in. Not easy to bring down, but he's pushed out of bounds short of the goal line. But ladies and gentlemen, your Knights cut into that lead a little bit. So it's just a few ticks left in the third quarter. Your Knights have cut the lead 56.
So I believe they'll start the running clock on the kickoff.
This kickoff will be the last play of the third quarter.
More than likely. And so just to give you some updates while they're transitioning over, the final in Antioch, 38-0. Franklin Christian gets their first playoff game W against the Ezel Harding Christian School Eagles, which almost looks like night and day. If FCA is taking it to Ezel Harding and Ezel barely won against Franklin Classical, that's going to be an interesting game between Franklin Christian and Franklin Classical later in the year. Of course, third quarter here, 56-18. Still no update from Lancaster and Christian Community. The final in Bowling Green, 60-0. The Patriots get it done on the road. And the Heat, 59. The Freedom Cowboys, 26 in Mount Juliet.
Is that the final?
That's in the fourth quarter. More than likely close to the final, but we'll let you know any updates as we get them, or you could download the Tennessee High School football app and get scoring updates from there. And 4 seconds winding down. End of 3 quarters, 12 minutes left to play. Will Franklin Classical start an amazing comeback, or will Riverside Christian get a W and go 1-1 in the South? Back in a few seconds. You're watching thekingdom.com Extreme Game of the Week. Welcome to the start of the fourth quarter, as it's now adjusted to fourth quarter. Special thanks to Zachary on that one. Spencer Thompson, Zachary Lone, and Jack Hellwig bringing you every bit of the action here from Fred Lane Field. 56-18, Riverside leads over Classical, and a high snap this time for Riverside as it gets tripped up in the backfield at the 35, a loss of 10 yards on the play.
As it looks like Michael Whitten is in at quarterback for Riverside here.
Looks like they're giving him some more reps potentially. Even though Michael Whitten is a senior, I mean that's their backup quarterback.
Maybe potentially look for them to start using him maybe as a decoy, or potentially later in the playoffs if they need a big play and look for a trick play. Maybe a backward screen pass to Whitten for a long touchdown pass to Kircher Ezel.
2nd and 20. Or as James would say, 2nd and a quarter of the field. Hand off to Hunt. Raymond Hunt back in the game. Gain of maybe 2 yards to make that third down and 18.
Maybe about a yard.
So if they can get a stop here within the next 20, if they can get a stop and they can score within the next minute, all of a sudden the clock stops running and you're 4 touchdowns down. You're only 4 touchdowns down.
It's looking like an interesting one. It's now a 3rd down and 18. Classical trying to get the stop. Their fan base cheering. Scramble by Whitten. Michael Whitten staying on his feet. Still avoiding all tackles. Finally brought down at about the 39-yard line and wasting some more time there. And it'll now be a 4th down. We'll see it punted away by Riverside. Now, do you want to waste down time as Riverside? If you're Coach O'Neill or Coach Creasy, do you want to waste more time here and just go for it on 4th down?
Actually, it would take less time. For a punt in the air, a punt hang time usually lasts about 7 seconds, correct. And a regular play in high school lasts about 4 to 5 seconds. So those 2 extra seconds could be big.
And high snap and punted away, almost blocked. And that's going to go bounce all the way to the 40-yard line. And we'll see if Classical can stop the mercy rule here, but with about 9 minutes left to go in the fourth, it's looking like closing time here at Fred Lane Field, close to that. And timeout called there. Now they use, I believe, their second timeout. It's 9:03. And I believe they're trying to manage on the field to make sure about the calls there. So timeout by Classical, and 9:03 left to go on the scoreboard.
Now, this is where, if you're Classical, you just want to get momentum going into this next week. I know we said this earlier, but they've done a good job so far in the second half of making sure that they're getting momentum and making sure to carry the momentum throughout the rest of this game. Because it's not easy playing when you're down by 30, down by 40. But they've kept playing. They've kept pushing. And towards the end of the year, yes, these look bad. This looks bad now, but towards the end of the year, these are extra reps that your young guys, your young guys could end up coming back and being positive for you. As let's see what Franklin Classical has in this first down.
Another high snap. Unfortunately, that's been the story of the game for them, as it's blown dead as Hubbard is brought down in the backfield. That's unfortunately been the story of the game for Franklin Classical.
Yeah, just a few bad snaps here and there. That was the story of the first half, but since the first half was over, since the second half started, there's been very few, to my recollection, bad snaps. So what a good job to bounce back from that first half, to have a pretty good second half so far.
And deep toss right side, incomplete. And pass intended for Keller is ruled incomplete. Looks like some of the FCS sideline did not like the no call there.
I personally thought it was pass interference because the way I think it was Dylan LaFleur didn't allow Ethan Keller to come back and try and make a play on that football. But most of the time you don't see those flags because they don't want to reward a quarterback for underthrowing a ball.
So now on a long third down, Hubbard looking for something to go with right side. The catch is made. Big reception in coverage there. And there he goes, staying on his feet. Good reception and a touchdown for, I believe, Dominic Thyssen was receiver on that, and a touchdown for Franklin Classical.
I think that might have been Jed Mangrum.
I couldn't tell from the number on there, but if it's Mangrum, incredible stuff from the junior.
What a great job. As now, that stops the running clock. But what a good job there. He turned, he caught the ball. He didn't make a move before he caught it. That's what you see a lot of times at high school level. They try and make a move before they catch it, not looking the ball all the way into their hands. He watches the ball into his hands, turns, reads what the defender's going to do, and makes that cut to the outside. And then once he got to that sideline, there wasn't a Riverside defender in sight, so he was able just to run right down the right sideline for another touchdown for Classical in the second half.
2-point conversion attempt, corner in the end zone is good. Catch made in the far left corner. 56-26. I told you it was going to be a high-scoring game. I just didn't know it was going to be this one-sided. But Classical is calling back. Classical is definitely calling
I wonder
back.
what the over/under was put at.
That's a good question. Maybe our producer Jack knows. Maybe he knows what the over/under was on that. You have any clue on what that was, Jack? Maybe.
Probably about a solid I'd say 45, 46. Somewhere in that range.
So kind of like a little, we
Something
went a little
in
bit
that
over.
range, huh?
I was going to say 45, 46. What are you taking? Before this game, what were you taking?
I was taking the over.
Okay.
I was going to take the over. If it was at 45, 46, I'd take the over, and I'd put a bunch of money on that one.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what I took before the game, but, you know, I guess we'll find out Sunday if you tune in.
And now my weather app gives me a weather statement of areas of fog likely tonight. We've been seeing that a little bit here at Red Lane Field. Still no update from Christian Community and Lancaster Christian. Waiting to figure out what the score is there. 7:32 left to go in the game.
We'll bring to set the kickoff for your Knights.
7:29 as here's a boot for an onside kick, and that will go out of bounds. And we'll probably, I believe Ronnie Perkins does call the kickoff penalty, so we'll get word from him in a second.
Illegal procedure on the kicking team, kicking the ball out of bounds. Riverside has elected to pick the ball to the spot where it went out of bounds. First and 10, Riverside.
Special thanks to Ronnie Perkins and company for keeping the game clean actually, we haven't had any fights break out, any unsportsmanlikes or anything. It's been a well-officiated game.
So the ball's placed at the 38-yard line there because a kick out of bounds goes to the 35-yard line. Unless it is past the 35-yard line, then it's basically just like a punt, downing a punt.
There's Rubelski, I believe it was Crutcher Rizel or Whitworth, got the catch there, and gain of about 6-7 yards.
And this is a good second half. If you're Coach Austin, you're like, hey guys, our second half, we played a pretty clean second half there. Let's just go ahead and let's carry this momentum into Lancaster, because now our next week, if I'm Coach Austin, say this next week of practice is the most critical of this whole season. We have to win next week. No ands, ifs, or buts about it.
Yeah, it's both a critical win for Classical to get, as well as Riverside Christian for going in the stretch of the playoff. 2nd and 4. About 6.5 left as the Classical defense trips up Riverside in the backfield for a loss of 3 yards. And this Classical home crowd is starting to come alive at homecoming.
Good for them. Good for them to keep going ahead and trying to get their guys motivated, keep them motivated. Because, I mean, as James has already said, I didn't play football, but I did play basketball. And it's hard to play in those blowouts when you're on the losing side.
Imagine how difficult it is to try and play in a stadium with barely any crowd noise. That affects the entire mood. 3rd down and 6. The direct quarterback keep up the middle and a 1st down and a little bit more. So Riverside's incredible from Michael Whidden. He's going to go all the way to about the 5-yard line. Michael Whidden silences this crowd.
Now let's watch his replay right here. The designed quarterback draw here. Here we go. Design quarterback draw. He gets to this secondary. And now watch that move he puts right there. That cut back to the right. But that was a good job of Nolan Hughes of continuing running towards the goal line and waiting until Whidden makes that last cut to go ahead and commit to him.
Gonna make that 5.5 left to go in the 4th, and no mercy rule now because it's a 30-point game instead of 35. Now 5:30 left to go as Riverside trying to get a score to run it down here, and a little bit of a muff staff, but he's going to stay on his feet. Stopped short. Another attempt to carry by Michael Whidden. So it looks like their man under center, Jake Rubelski, is either in another position or on the sideline. Not sure.
Takes him down behind the line of scrimmage. Bring up 2nd.
So they don't have. So you you want to say that again on air, Jack? Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's hear from you.
All right, so dream scenario here to win the game, folks. All you have to do right here is just hope for a really high snap, run that back for a touchdown, get every single onside kick, get every single 2-point conversion, and maybe you can lose by 6 points.
We may need to do may need to have a third man analyst in the booth going into the future broadcast. We'll consider that for sure. Here's Witten, right side catch, and to the end zone.
Well,
at the pylon, touchdown.
it looks like producer Jack's theories didn't come true.
Yeah. Unfortunately, your theory's not coming true on there, but another 6 for Riverside Christian.
I hope for the best. In all honesty, they did play a great second half. I think the high snaps are what killed them because this is a really good offense here. It's just unfortunate that some offensive turnovers has really put this team down. But, the running clock really could have killed them. I think without that running clock, maybe a comeback could have happened. But we'll never know.
Good insights from our producer, Jack Helwig. 2-point conversion attempt coming
Couldn't have
up.
said it better myself.
So potential to make it 64-26. Thanks to all of you who have been watching the game. All about 30 of you. Very thankful for it. A 2-point conversion attempt, no good. 62-26 with about 4:29 left to go in the fourth. They'll run the clock at the kickoff, and maybe closing time here. Coming up on the post-game show, Zachary and I will give our thoughts and analysis from the field. We'll get an interview with, if the result holds, the victorious coach, Travis Creasy. And we'll give our thoughts on the rest of the games around the conference. We still are waiting to know what happened at Lancaster Christian Community. One of those games.
I'm going to guess.
Didn't you predict that Lancaster was going to win?
Lancaster 35. CCS 32.
You saying at final score or score?
Oh,
right
wait.
now?
Lancaster doesn't have a field goal kicker, do they?
No, I think they.
Yeah, they do.
They don't. I think they kicked maybe 1 or 2 extra points there when we were.
Did Sacred Heart?
Sacred
No.
Heart.
They
No,
did
Sacred
because they
Heart doesn't.
kicked it.
Yep.
They
got
do.
a field goal
Yeah.
kicker.
So I'm going 35-32.
We do so many broadcasts in a season that each week it's just and watch so much film that's the only reason I had to go back into the archives of my mind to make sure that they do have a field goal kicker.
Excuses.
Hey, you didn't remember that. You didn't see me calling you for excuses on that. We obviously do not like each other, ladies and gentlemen. As
Yeah,
the
of
ball
course
goes
not.
to about the 4-yard line, an attempted return by Classical immediately met at the 10-yard line. And that's going to start the clock, and Classical probably playing for pride at this point. So the good news for Frank and Classical. Actually, the bad news, they start out 0-2 in the division. The good news, they can go 3-2, and that'll put them in a decent position to get that third seed in the playoffs. If they lose one more game, then it's a must-win for the 2 remaining games in the South. As call a timeout here on the field. Timeout called by.
Timeout for Franklin Classical. That's their last charge timeout of the half. Franklin Classical, they're out.
So Jack Helwig made his debut on the PA system.
No,
Congratulations.
he got it last week, too.
Well, yeah, you got it last week, too. Congratulations to making the debut here at Classical. But last charge time out of the half for the Franklin Classical School Knights. And how does it feel to be on the PA system, Jack?
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad everyone here got to hear my wonderful voice here this afternoon,
Afternoon?
Or, late night. My apologies.
Well, I mean,
Well, listen, what I was going to say there was it seemed kind of weird that they let the clock go down by 25 seconds before they took the timeout to hopefully go to this last drive. That's all I was going to point out there. Just an interesting observation.
So, as I was saying, 0-2 is what you start out in your divisional record, and we'll get it a little bit after this play. But you start out 0-2, and you've got your final Lancaster, and so it's actually only 5 teams eligible in the South. So they'll have 4 games. So they'll have 4 games. Call from Perkins.
Dead ball foul. Movement prior to the snap. False start on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
So Classical starts out 0-2 on their games. They have to win the last 2 games they have in the South, at least for clinching scenarios, if they want to get that 3rd seed up. So I was thinking it was going to be a 3-2 record, but Providence ineligible. So they have to win their next 2 games to hope to get to the postseason as incomplete. Against Lancaster, if they take that loss, they are essentially eliminated because you have to win 2 games to get in. So it's tough for Franklin Classical here, especially after that overtime loss to Ezel Harding. Now, granted, it could come down to the final scenario of Classical and Christian in the Battle of Franklin, because if that happens, then one of them gets into the postseason. We'll see how it goes. But for Riverside, a win here, 1-1, it puts them in a good situation. They just need one more win, and that would basically get them in there to potentially host a playoff spot. It's a flea flicker. Right side toss, almost intercepted through the hands of Michael Whidden. Whidden just, that was through Will O'Neill's hands. A little bit upset of that.
Trickery.
Trying to test some different plays there as about 2:50 left to go.
And that's something that they're going to keep in their back pocket the rest of the year. Just go ahead and see how it looks in a game. Yeah, that's why a lot of times you see coaches. That's why coaches watch the full game film, including at the end of blowouts, because a lot of times you have coaches try and go ahead and use those trick plays that they're going to use later in the season, just to see how they look against a defense other than themselves.
Another deep toss by Classical to the right side. Is that incomplete? So another incompletion there, and it's going to be 4th down. And for Riverside, as I mentioned, they're now 1-1 in the South. They have 2 more games at Franklin Christian bye week, and then hosting Ezel Harding. So that's going to shape where they're going to go in the postseason. Lancaster looking like they have the chance to go undefeated in the South, which would give them the #1 seed in the bye week. But those 2 and 3 seeds in the South, it's still really up in the air. This game is crucial for that, but it's still up in the air on who's going to take those final Division I slots.
Oh, definitely. But that's why this next week is such a big week for Classical, and you have to prepare like
incomplete.
And you also have to prepare like next week is the biggest game of your life, because it's the biggest game of the season by far. I know we've said it multiple times throughout this broadcast, but if you lose next week, you're eliminated from the playoffs.
Essentially.
So from here on out, every game is a playoff game for Classical. Every single one of them.
If they lose to Lancaster, then they're in a difficult spot. It depends on how Ezel Harding's season goes out, because of course they lost to Franklin Christian, so they're 1-1 in the division rankings as well. Ezel Harding, they got a tough thing to deal with. Jack, we'll get a shot of each coach real quick. Time called, and
Dead ball. Movement prior to the snap. False start on the offense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 1st down.
with 46 seconds left, we'll get you a shot of each coach. We'll start with the home coach, Isaiah Austin, who is coming into the season 0-0, and of course, Classical last year, they were 4-4 under Coach Herrera. And as they knee it down, we'll get a shot of the victorious coach real quick, Travis Creasy, who the team made it to the semis, lost it. They were 7-3. Coach Creasy, coming into the season, was 37-30 overall, and with their current record now, it's going to be 38-31. So congratulations to Coach Creasy on the victory. That's going to wrap it up here for Franklin Classical School's home of Fred Lane Field. The final score. The final score here, 62-26. Riverside is 1-1 and in the driver's seat for their destiny in the playoffs, and Classical has got a tough uphill battle to climb. Stay tuned for the post-game show. We'll interview Coach Creasy in a moment. Just stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome, everybody, to the post-game show. I'm Spencer Thompson. That's Zachary Lone. A lot of interesting scores that we've seen around the league. It's a close one for the Freedom Cowboys and the Tennessee Heat. Well, not so much a close one as getting one-sided, but here it was one-sided the majority of the game. Franklin Classical School tried to come back on homecoming night. Riverside got the job done on the road. 62-26 the final score here. We're going to interview with Coach Travis Creasy in just a moment. And Zachary, this game, of course, it's a tough loss for Classical School, but this is one of those games that going forward, every South game is a must-win. Against their final games against Lancaster Christian and Franklin Classical School, they've got to win that game if they don't want to be put in a situation where they can be eliminated from the playoffs on one loss.
And winning that game starts Monday. Coming in, having the right mindset after a loss like this, coming in, working every day to get better, working to where you can go in and you can beat Lancaster. They have to have this next game. There's no and, like I've said multiple times, we can't understate there's no and, ifs, or buts about it. Because if they lose that one, there's almost no way they can get into the playoffs. And the only way they could is through tiebreakers, and you don't want to come down to tiebreakers.
No, especially you don't want it to come down to tiebreakers when the third tiebreaker is still a coin toss. That's one of the situations you don't want to put your players in. But for Riverside, they've got 2 games left. They travel to Franklin Christian next week. We'll talk to Creasy about that in a second. But to Franklin Christian bye week, and then they host Ezel Harding. So that is going to be a situation for them where, last year they traveled twice to Ezel Harding in the regular season and then in the postseason. But for those next 2 games, especially FCA, who completely swept Ezel Harding tonight on the final score of 38-0, it's looking like Riverside is in the driver's seat for sure to potentially host a playoff game, even though they took the loss to Lancaster. They're likely going to lock up the number 2 seed if they get that win next week.
Oh, definitely. And the thing what they did this week that they didn't do last week is they played 4 full complete quarters. Last week they played a good first quarter, a good second quarter, and they were up 20 points. And then they kind of mailed it in. They're like, oh, we're up 20. Well, then it came back to hurt them. Yep. And that's what's good about losing that game early in the year. If you're Riverside, you're like, hey, well, we can beat Lancaster. I mean, we had them for the first half. We had them for a full half, and then we didn't do what we were supposed to in the second half, and that was what really costed us. So their confidence level, really, even though they lost last week, is at a high. They came in this week and they handled business, and don't be surprised if you're looking in 3 weeks and saying, oh, hey, well, they went 3-1 in the conference.
Yeah, this Riverside team, they beat 3-1 in their division. In the conference, that's yet to be determined through the rest of their games. It's going to be an interesting stretch towards the playoffs to see what it's gone. Let's get you an update from the other games while Creasy is wrapping up with his guys. 38-0, of course, the final score in Antioch. Franklin Christian on their first game that mattered for the postseason. They're 1-0 right now, and they're in the driver's seat of their own destiny as well, especially with Riverside coming to town next week. Of course, the final score here, 62-26. Riverside Christian getting the victory over Franklin Classical. Still no scoring update from Lancaster Christian Community. A 60-0 sweep for South Haven over the Bowling Green Warriors on the road. Bowling Green, of course, struggling with the youth of their team. And in the fourth quarter right now, looking like it's close going final, 73-32. The Heat leading on the Freedom Cowboys. So
they're making their bid for Florida.
Yeah,
they're
probably making their bid for Florida since they're not tied to the postseason for the TSIAA. But those are the rest of the scores going on right now. Still no update at all from Lancaster and Christian Community. Hopefully we'll have that updated in the Tennessee High School football app whenever we get that score. So hopefully we'll see that going down the stretch. But I tell you what, Zachary, this game really reminds me of there was a St. Andrew Sewanee game that St. Andrew Sewanee came here to Fred Lane Field in 2017. They got the W, and they put them in the position to potentially go to the playoffs. Of course, everyone knows about how the coin flip thing went down for that. But it seems that Fred Lane Field has some magic about it, where anytime teams come in here for division games, they're always crucial going into the postseason.
Of course, and that's what the beauty of football is. Really, all division games are important. But when you come into a field such as Franklin Classical, where the home field advantage is so big, it's hard to win here. And if you're Riverside, you're coming away from this game, you're like, we just went to Franklin Classical, to Fred Lane Field, and we beat them. We really controlled the game for all 4 quarters.
Yep. They control the game for 4 quarters as well. So looks like I'm going to get told Coach Creasy whatever he wanted to do with talking to the guys. I believe he actually is noticing he may be walking over this way. Just looking to see if he's coming over.
Crosses to 45.
I think he is. Yeah, he's crossing the yard lines and talking to his people. more than likely, we're not going to have the same situation as we did a few weeks ago. Of course, Coach Johnson got an interview with us after Providence Christian and such. No shade being thrown towards him, just stating that we probably won't have that situation in there. So, final 73-32. The Heat get it done with a victory against the Freedom Cowboys. Congratulations to them on that victory, and hopefully we'll get Lancaster and Christian Community on that. All right, Zachary, monologue a little bit, and maybe you could talk back and forth with Jack Helwig a little bit as we get Coach Creasy over to interview.
Okay, well, I'm going to give producer Jack, his very first analysis of a game. Jack, what did you see this game?
Well, coming here from my perspective, RCA played a heck of a game, honestly. RCA played wonderfully. FCS, I think a lot of offensive turnovers really could have, helped them out if things didn't go too well. I don't think FCS is completely – they have some work to do. But RCA is a tough team to look out for. What about you,
And
Zach?
like Spencer, I had no idea what Jack just said. As it looks like Coach Creasy's on his way over here right now, and Spencer is going to get the interview with him. But Riverside came in and dominated really all 4 quarters and controlled the game, controlled the tempo, controlled and just controlled the game. And I think here we have Coach Creasy right now.
Yep. Taking the gesture here to move a little bit to the side here, so that we can make sure that their prayers interfered with. Coach Creasy, congratulations on the W. We talked about this pregame, but your guys going into this week, of course, their heads were held high in some regards, but took the loss at home to Lancaster. What is the mentality about this team that got them to overcome, get the lead early, and not let Franklin Classical beat you guys around?
Well, it's one of those things where, as a coach, I was telling him, I said, you never know, are you going to come out and kind of be zombified through the first quarter and a half? And, we've done that in the past. And, our team leadership, our seniors, we got 6 of them, and they're just kind of like, that's not going to be the case. And, they kind of came out and got after it and stayed after it and kept the hammer down. And, they're over there staying fired up, staying involved. Even when they had to come out of the game, we subbed some. So, hats off to them. I'm encouraged by their getting over, that loss and getting back in the win column.
Yeah, we saw a lot of great plays from Raymond Hunt, Crutch Rizzo on there in the play. Talk about how those guys really stepped up, even though they had a dominant lead and FCS kept falling back. Talk about how some of the guys that impressed you in all 4 quarters.
Well, you mentioned Raymond. Obviously Crutcher is Crutcher, and it's real easy to take him for granted. Michael Whidden, who just is a monster off the edge, hard to block, hard to get a hand on, always kind of pressuring the quarterback. Of course, then he gets in and has to run quarterback a few drives for us, and obviously we got some work to be done there. But we've got 8 guys flying to the ball. We're relying on some young guys, and they've stepped up. And obviously, we're going to enjoy this one for a little while, but then it's FCA week. So
yeah, next week you've got a game that you guys are 1-1 in the division. Got a chance to seal for the first Division I playoff game to be hosted by Riverside Christian in your school history. Of course, celebrate the victory here, but the job's not done since you're chasing for the playoffs. What are you telling your guys to prepare for Tim Johnson and company on the road right down the street from here next week?
Well, it's FCA. It's kind of one of those games where if I have to give you a big rah-rah speech to get fired up for it, then I'm not sure you're alive. So you need to check and make sure that you're okay. And those guys will be ready to play. Franklin Christian's always ready to go when Riverside comes down or they come to us. So, Coach Johnson's a great coach, just like Coach Austin's a great coach. So it's nonstop. It's the way it is. And, it's real difficult sometimes to enjoy a win for 24 hours and not kind of look ahead. But you try to enjoy them and celebrate. But we'll be ready, and I know they will be.
Yep, FCA got the win tonight, 35-0 over Easel Harding and Antioch. So it's definitely going to be an interesting game to see next week. But regardless, congratulations, Coach. 62-26 victory. Looking forward to see how you guys do against Franklin Christian next week. And best of luck to your guys going forward.
I appreciate it, guys. Appreciate everything you do.
Yep, appreciate it. Thank you, Coach. Any final thoughts here, Zachary, as we wrap it up here from Fred Lane Field?
So if I'm for Franklin Classical right here, Monday from next week you got to win the day every single day, because what's really undervalued in sports is what you do from Monday to Thursday leading up to that game and the weekends. I don't know if Franklin Classical does anything on the weekends. That's why I'm not bringing in the weekends. But what you do from Monday to Thursday leads you up and sets you up for success on Friday night. Games aren't won Friday night. Games are won Monday through Thursday through game planning.
Yep.
So that's what Coach Austin tells his team right now. He's like, guys, come in Monday, and we have to make sure that we don't take any play for granted whatsoever. And if I'm Riverside, look, guys, look. Now we are in control of our destiny. We only have to win one of our final 2 games. So it's no longer every game's a must-win game like it is for Franklin Classical. That's how big this game was. It went from, okay, well, we have a little bit of a leeway if we win, to, no, it's every game's a playoff mode now.
Yep. It's a tough situation for Franklin Classical going forward, but for Riverside Christian, they have a chance to host their first Division I playoff game in school history, and Fayetteville is definitely the city to beat if that happens. On behalf of our producer at home, James Shannon, our producer up in the bleachers, Jack Helwig, as well as on behalf of Zachary Lone, all the hardworking men and women that make 8-Man Extreme so successful, I'm Spencer Thompson saying we have no more games the rest of the weekend, nothing else active in 8-Man football.